First, my reaction is to salute the courage of the president for going back on that. I sincerely believe that he wasn't properly briefed before they started the implementation of that policy. And so for him to have listened to the cries of Nigerians and suspended it in order to probably reject it and make it in such a way that it reflects and the fears of Nigerians, I think is something that I commend him personally for.
Now, if you say he wasn't properly briefed, what does he speak? What do you think about that?
You know, one thing I want to tell you is that as governor, I chaired a committee that was set up by the National Economic Council. We were saddled with the responsibility of profiling solution that will address the incessant conflicts between farmers and headers. And that assignment took me into a few countries in Africa and out of the continent. And we came back and I submitted a report to the National Economic Council that was accepted by everybody with no exception. And in the report, which is now with the National Planning Commission, in the report, I suggested, based on what we saw in other countries, that the federal government should set up a seed money, about 100 billion, to start because what I saw in Namibia especially was that we have ranches, but they were very big. And you know that Namibia supply about 30% of the beef consumed in Europe. And it's an African country. It's a country that is not as endowed as we are. And if they can contend the headers there and make the business profitable, I thought that we should do the same thing. So the suggestion was that we should set aside a seed money of 100 billion. And the state, we'll start probably with some pilot states that are interested. Each state can access like 5 billion and set up something like a grazing area where that state, not that the federal government will have any interference in that. The state, the federal government can design the way that it will be structured, but then the state can access 5 billion, build a dam, set up an environment that is conducive for people in that business, and people can go there so that they don't live outside of that environment. You have water, then you have an area that is enough to cover them for pasturing. Go and take them out to eat grass and all of that. And we thought that if that was what they were implementing, you wouldn't have these cries all over the place. But you see, Ruga in the first place connotes something that create fear in the minds of people. People have just simply become paranoid because of the experience they're having. Then you talk about settlement. What are the parameters? When you say a settlement, there are no parameters. And so, but when you say that you are going to ranch and the state should come and assess this money and set up that, and the federal government will monitor it and make sure that if you assess the money, you set up a ranch in a manner that is prescribed by the federal government, or designed by the federal government. We won't have this problem because every person wants this problem sorted out. At that time that we did that, I think we submitted that report in 2014 or thereabout. It was accepted. Central Bank was to set up 100 billion for that project to be carried out. But I think instead of them implementing that, they have twisted it, and then turned into something different. The money in the first place that was suggested under Ruga is not enough to do anything. So some people just thought that they were going to make money out of that. So I think that as a chief executive and as president, because I'm speaking from experience, there are certain things that you are not well briefed on, and you take decision before you realize that it's not in the best interest as was represented to you of the people. And so I believe seriously that while the president is eager that the solution must be found in this situation, certain individuals are taking advantage of that. And so for him to have reneged on that is something that we'll commend him from, because as chief executive, at times you take a decision, whether right or wrong, you want to just stay there and let it go. But a lot of Nigerians have complained, and some people, have even issued threat. And he had decided that he would suspend it. I think the suspension will give him an ample opportunity to properly look into it and come out with the best solution that will be acceptable to all and sundry. So I think that is something that all of us must commend the president for taking that decision.
Now, going forward, do you think this policy should be suspended or cancelled as a whole?
You see, the policy is suspended. Right now, I'm not in a position to be conclusive on it. No. Why I'm saying I'm not in a position to be conclusive on it is this, that it's now suspended, right? During the period of suspension, what is going to happen? Is it going back to a situation where money will be available, some seed money will be available for governors or states that are interested to assess it and create ranches, as my governor has proposed? If he was to come here and assess some money and create ranches, that is what he encourages every person to do. I don't think there will be opposition. But you say Ruga. Ruga is a Hausa word for settlement. Yes, when you talk about settlement is not delineated. And once there is a settlement, it means that there will be no limitation as to where they can graze. That is the problem. If they had said they are going to money provided for ranches, the outcome would have been different, because a lot of people would rather go into ranching. I have a small ranch myself. I have a few cows. I have a ranch. I keep them there. They bring food there. There's water there for them. And so the governor of Benue, who first cried out, also is interested that if it is ranching, all of us will participate in it. But the name Ruga itself creates paranoia in people, because you are just trying to fix people in settlement, and knowing that under our constitution, which delegated the powers to the Land Use Act, the Land Use Act is very clear about who owns land in a different state. And so the federal government has no powers to unilaterally just sit down and say that, look, I'm going to assess land here and then create a settlement in whatever name. Whether that thing will be beneficial to even the people, the consent of the governor of such a state must first and foremost be sought. You can't just go and start creating settlement like that. This is why I say that the people who were saddled with this didn't properly brief the president. And I'm sure that he wasn't properly briefed. If he was, it would have been different. If he wants to send Ruga in Abuja here, he can do so, because this land within the Federal Capital Territory is within his own jurisdiction. But outside, he must seek the consent of the governors of those states. And so I think that as I've suspended it, they will sit down and look at the best, because this problem must and have to be addressed. And we have a lot of countries, even African countries, smaller than ours, who have addressed this problem. Like I mentioned, Namibia, if you go to Botswana, they have addressed this problem, and they're benefiting because, like I said, Namibia supplies 30% of the beef consumed in Europe. It's a very small country, and you go there, they have ranched the cows, the cattle, and so why can't we do the same here? If ranching is the way to go. Let us do that. Places where you have cows, if you go to Europe, Britain, you go to America and most of these European countries, you see, they even operate in small, small ranches. It's not even big ranches. They have people, some people have not even to 20 cows, but they have small, small ranches that they keep their cattle in. So I think that for us to solve this problem permanently, we must, at the end of the day, do that.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Away from the Ruga issue, I would like to know your priority legislative agenda.
Priority?
Yes. Areas of priority, the ones you are taking first, and
there is a serious misconception about the responsibility or the role of a legislator, and is because it's been sustained for long. People are looking at legislators like executives who have everything at their disposal. But having said that, we're here to make laws for the good governance of the nation. And my priority is to make sure that that is done. We have a lot of problems. We have a lot of challenges currently confronting us as a country. The issue of poverty. The issue, of course, poverty, the security issue is a consequence of the poverty level in the country. And so any legislation that will address a reduction of poverty in this country is where my priority is. According to the Bureau of Statistics in this country, 71% of Nigerians live below the poverty line. And those 71% of Nigerians are not included in the so-called economic growth. They don't participate. And so when you say that the economic growth of this country is moving at a certain percentage, when you just drive to Nyanya, you wonder whether that has reflected on the man on the street in Nyanya. It doesn't. It is because there is no inclusive economic growth in this country. And so what I'm looking at is any legislation that addresses that critical 71% part of the Nigerians that have sent me in here. So I will focus more on that. But then we need to work together with the executive arm of government for us to be able to do that, because when they bring the budget, which is also part of legislation, which is the only serious responsibility that we have here, is to look at whether that budget seeks to address or whether that budget will impact on the 71% of the people living below poverty line.